people often come to my classes and they're like, "Oh, I'm so scared of pussy. I'm so scared because I was raised Catholic or I was raised Jewish or I was raised, Muslim and I'm like, the scariest thing is to not own your pussy. Why? Because if you don't own your pussy, I promise you someone else will."
We're back, baby, with a brand new season of the It's Fucking Spiritual podcast. Join us each week as we have unfiltered conversations about how to transform your life. Our mission is to usher in a new era of spirituality where you don't have to be all love and light to live a life of alignment. Here, we honor all of it, the profound and the profane, the magic and the messy, and all things that make you human. So let's discuss the truth behind transformation and be unapologetic in our evolution. From manifestation to money, embodiment to energy, and all taboo topics, nothing is going to be off limits. Are you ready to live a life that feels just as good as it looks? Let's get fucking spiritual. Welcome back to another episode of the It's Fucking Spiritual podcast. I am so excited for this conversation today because, as you guys know, I have been on a big feminine journey over these past few years, and you guys have been on it with me because you have followed along. We've talked about getting into pleasure and into desire, and it's been the biggest thing on my path over the last few years, and same thing for you guys, and y'all have loved it. And today we have an OG of a pioneer of the feminine path and movement, and I cannot wait to talk with her today. She is the founder of the School of Womanly Arts and also the New York Times bestselling author of Pussy, a Reclamation, which I'm sure many of you have read, and if you have not, definitely go grab it. So I cannot wait to talk to her today. Mama Gena, welcome to the show.
Mama Gena's on the show.
Mama Gena's on the show.
We're doing this because it's fucking time.
It's fucking time. And you are a woman after my own heart, just using, provocative language. Pussy, a Reclamation. It's fucking spiritual.
Yeah.
I feel like we are a vibe.
Hey, sister, soul sister.
Yes, I love it. I'm so excited. And we did a dance party before we got
did.
on the show today. And
We
I
did.
think that needs to be a thing now.
With you and your puppy.
And my dog. Yeah. He loves to be a part of it. Well, I'm so excited to have you on the show today. Thank you for being here.
I'm honored to be here and be part of your journey.
Yeah, thank you. And I want us to just dive right in. I know a little bit about your journey and just I was just telling you, you've been a teacher on my path and in my own feminine embodiment. So thank you. And I would love to just hear for the listeners, tell us a little bit about your journey. You've had this massive career. You've been such a pioneer in this industry. What has that looked like for you? What got you into this work to begin with?
Okay. First of all, I want to say I am certain a lot of women who follow you are women also like us that have some kind of calling.
Yeah.
That something is calling their name, calling themselves forward in some way that might be a little nameless and a little shapeless right now, but there's some desire, some pull to not just live an ordinary life, but an extraordinary life. And what I mean by that is having an opportunity not only to live, but to serve.
Yeah.
And to take others higher. And follow that calling.
Yeah.
Follow that. There's no truer truth than a woman's desire. And my journey was definitely pathed by my desire. And I have been so grateful to have somehow learned to pay attention to that feeling of aliveness that has been with me since I was a child.
Yeah.
And follow it. If you're one of those women, follow it, because there is no better way to live your life than to really surrender to your desires and to your longings and to that which is even greater than you. So I think I'd be interested to see if this was true for you, but my calling came to me when I was a really little girl.
Yeah.
Did that happen for you too?
Well, it was the calling to be on stage and the calling to have, I always knew I was a performer in some way. And I always loved being on camera and I always loved speaking and singing and creating. And so in that way, yes, but I didn't know it was going to turn into this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you think you were going to be an actor?
I thought I was going to be a singer. Yeah.
Oh my God, do you have pipes?
I'll own it. Yes.
Okay, great. Great,
Yeah.
that's great. Yeah, I think that, originally, like if you want to go back thousands and thousands of years to ancient Greece, the healing arts and the theater arts were one. Like there was a temple called the Asclepicon in Greece, and that is where Asclepius, who was the first physician, practiced his craft. And so people would come there for healing, and they would have dreams. And then they would take those dreams and they would perform them. They would theatricalize them and create a healing process as a result.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, we think, oh, it's frivolous to be a singer or an actor. No, it is sacred. It is
Wow.
sacred. And so following that ancient calling is really potent and really important. And mine came to me when I came from a family where I had domestic violence. And when I was about 5, the goddess came to me when I would go to sleep at night, and I could feel her right about here sitting on my pillow. And when I would turn my head to look at her, she would vanish. And so I learned something, that she lives in the periphery. And that somehow I got it in my 5-year-old head that it was my job to find her and bring her back to consciousness, to the planet.
Ooh, chills.
Like that was my task. And it was a pretty serious task for a 5-year-old, but it didn't seem that way at the time. I was just like, yeah, this is for me to do. Because you know that feeling when you're just like connected to your pleasure? Is a feeling like no other. You can feel your own spiritual aliveness, your own connection to that which is greater than you. And it was so potent and so pleasurable. And I just wanted every woman to feel that feeling. So I kind of followed that pathway and searched for her in churches and synagogues and temples and God knows where, friends, seminaries. I thought there had to be a place where the goddess was worshipped, because it didn't make sense to me that only gods were worshipped. That seemed like that was leaving out 51% of the population.
Yeah.
To my 5-year-old mind. I was like, wait a minute, but where the girls get theirs? Where? Like, it seemed there has to be a place. And I know it's not in synagogues because I was Jewish. So I couldn't have imagined at that time that I would create that place. But that's ultimately what led me circuitously and eventually to begin the School of Womanly Arts 27 years ago in my living room with 11 women. And then that school has just grown and grown and grown until I was teaching thousands and thousands of women in huge venues around New York City and around the world, and writing 4 books, including a New York Times bestseller, This Guy. And I've taught over 80,000 students.
Wow.
In all these years, which I'm so grateful for. I've had such a beautiful ride.
Amazing.
A lot of ups, a lot of downs, a lot of crashes, a lot of rebirths, but unbelievable journey.
Wow.
And that's the potency of saying yes to your desires. It will lead you to a life of such unimaginable adventure that literally is bigger, better, and more wild than you could ever dream up on your own.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to start big. Like literally, I started with a handful of women in my living room, knowing that this was just mine to do, to start the School of Womanly Art. I just had to do it.
Beautiful. Yeah. And I think that's the thing, right? Is people expect that they can compare themselves to it needs to be big immediately. And it's like when it never is, right? It's just following the whisper, following the yes. And I talk about that on this podcast all the time. Like, had I not done that, I wouldn't have created this. I wouldn't have, created what I've created and been able to work for myself and done all these beautiful things. And I'm curious, because it sounds like this was sparked in you from such a young age, but did you ever have a time where you were afraid to follow the yes, or where you were blocked from?
I'm always afraid.
Okay.
I'm writing my 5th book.
Briefly interrupting this episode for a very special announcement. If you are someone that has been loving this podcast, that you love this work, you really are ready to deepen in your own feminine embodiment journey. You are ready to expand your capacity to receive abundance and what you desire in your life. And you want to do it all in sisterhood. And you want to travel out of the country. Drum roll, please. I invite you to join us in Costa Rica in May of 2025. We have officially opened the doors for our Costa Rican Expanded Woman Retreat, where we are going to spend 5 days and 5 nights together in the jungle of Costa Rica. and just go really deep together in sisterhood. So if you have desired to attend one of the It's Fucking Spiritual retreats and you want to join us in Costa Rica, it is going to be such an incredible time. There's going to be organic food. There's going to be deep workshops and so much bonding and sisterhood and beach bonfires and excursions and all of the things. And honestly, you guys, every single time that I have taken the leap and gone to something in person, my first ever retreat as an attendee was in Costa Rica. And that is where this podcast idea was actually born. And so every single time that I have chosen to take the leap and I've gone somewhere in person alone and nervous and ready for my expansion, there is so much transformation on the other side. It is honestly how I have built my life, has been from taking multiple days to go really deep, to receive reflections in sisterhood, and to really claim what I want out of life. And I invite you to do that with us if it's something that's calling you. This is by application only. So definitely go and fill out the application in the show notes. There's going to be so much information about the retreat, the dates, pricing, all of that in that application, and go and take a look. And if it's calling you, definitely apply. Even if you're on the fence, definitely apply and we will review your application. And if you have any questions, you can email us at support@rachelgibler.com. And we hope that we will get the chance to meet you in Costa Rica in May. Okay.
I start writing at 4 a.m.
Amazing.
I don't know why, but I will tell you this. If you wake up at 4 a.m, no one's going to bother your ass. You're going to be fine. You're not going to get any phone calls.
Yeah.
You're going to be great. It's going to be you and the darkness until the sunrise. It's a beautiful time to write. So you never know when the muse is going to come, but you have to bow down when she comes. So that's my writing time, and that's where I begin. But every time I, hit the computer in the morning, I'm like, oh God, does this book even know what it is? Do I even know what I'm doing? Do I even okay, I have written other books, but is this it? Am I saying what wants to be said? Like, I'm always in question about it. And so I think that's the creative process.
Yeah.
If you are wondering, like, does this shit make sense? You're good.
Oh, I love that. And that's really inspiring too. It sounds like you create a space for the muse to come. In a way,
Yeah, I think so.
You're sitting down, you're doing the thing at 4 o'clock in the morning. It sounds
You
like you're
make the
just
coffee, you light the candle, you flip up the laptop, and it's like any muscle that you want to build. You go to the gym, you have to hit it every day. It's the same thing with writing. You have to just show up at the desk, and then you let the great pussy in the sky take care of the rest.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. And I know you said a woman that's connected to her pussy is connected to her power, right? Tell us a little bit about like your journey of reclaiming that word for yourself, your journey of becoming connected to your pussy. I'm sure someone listening to this right now, like that might feel taboo or edgy for them.
I know, but it's actually fucking spiritual.
Yeah.
Because
it is.
Back to my goddess story when I was a little girl, and then literally searching for the goddess. I actually had friends of mine. I was like, Susie, you're Catholic. Can I go to church with you? Because I think the goddess is there. Just, and then I'd go, and then she wouldn't be. And then I would try, I don't know, a Russian Orthodox church or a friend's seminary. I was searching, literally searching, because I thought she had to be somewhere. And then I couldn't find her at any, because we live in a patriarchal world culture, and all of the world religions currently are male-centric. So I thought, well, I failed, and I kind of put that to the side. But I suffered the loss of not understanding myself as a spiritual being, not being able to connect in churches or synagogues or temples or mosques. Like, I didn't feel that sense of aliveness that I felt when the goddess had come to me when I was a little kid. So, but I came to New York City because I wanted to be an actor, but I didn't have any confidence. I was so filled with self-doubt, self-deprecation. I felt disconnected. I felt disenfranchised, probably because of my the abuse I experienced as a kid. But I didn't have a frame for it. I didn't know that was a problem because no one was talking about those things in those days. And so I just lived my life, but I was just like, something is going on. I can't put one foot in front of the other. I'm stuck. I'm depressed. And I noticed my girlfriends, I'd gone to a women's college. I had a friend who wanted to be an artist, but she couldn't charge for her work. She didn't feel it was valuable enough. Another friend who wanted to be a film director, but she ended up working for her father's temp agency because she couldn't risk the dream. And I was just noticing there's something about women and confidence that's not the same as men. And I don't know what it is, but I'm definitely victim to it myself. I was feeling, I just didn't know who I was as a woman. And I thought, who am I to set foot on a stage if I don't even know who I am as a woman? So I kind of shut down my career and I more or less became a hermit. And I studied ancient goddess cultures and the work of Maria Gimbutas and Joseph Campbell and Ryan Eisler, Merlin Stone, all those fabulous people. And I learned so much about when the feminine was revered in a way, not, it wasn't like there were matriarchal religions that excluded the masculine. It was just that it was partnership.
Yeah.
And the holy in the feminine was revered as the holy in the masculine. So I learned that in those days, pre-patriarchy, people felt that there was the sacred everywhere, in the stars, in the sun, in the moon, in the rivers, in the trees, everywhere, in the connections between human beings. And so I was like, that's very different than patriarchy, which is about you are a sinner or you aren't good. You know, it was all this duality. And, but learning about those things didn't change me. I was still stuck.
Yeah.
And because I wanted to be an actor, a friend of mine who I waited tables with, she went to this new acting class and she was like, you got to come and audition. It's great. So I sort of dragged my ass to that audition. And when the people saw me audition, they said, you're a good actor, but you have no sexuality, which made sense because I'd been a celibate hermit for so many years. And they said, you need to learn that or you're going to be cast in roles that are much older than you are. And so I was like, whoa, okay. For my career, I will do this. And I signed up for a class called Basic Sensuality. Sounded good. It was basic sensuality. Couldn't be too scary. And that class literally changed my life. So you always want to be open when you feel that little sparkle, even if it's scary, to say yes.
Yeah.
I was so scared that I ran home during the lunch break and I swore I'd never go back because I thought, who are these weird teachers and who are these weird people in the class? And then I thought, Regina, if you don't get back there, you are going to be living this same old you being stuck.
Yeah.
Get your ass back in that room, even if it's horrible. And what happened was they gave us a homework assignment. They were supposed to go home and prepare as if the most important person in the world was coming to visit us. Now, for me at that time, it would have been Barbara Streisand.
An icon.
Icon. I worshipped her. And so I was like, oh God, if Barbara Streisand came over, I would definitely buy the Pellegrino. I would spring for the flowers. And so you bought all these little special treats, but it wasn't a special person. I was preparing it for myself. I swear, even in the little bodega on the corner of New York City, me walking in there and shopping for things that would be pleasurable for me, because I never did that.
Yeah.
When I grew up, I was told to take care of your family, take care of your brothers, take care of your boss, take care of your girlfriends, take care of everybody, but no one really taught me to pleasure myself or to prioritize myself. I didn't know that was important. So I noticed even my energy in the little store changed. And all the guys were rushing to help me find the perfect flowers and the perfect chocolates. And I was like, this is a lot of attention for a hermit. So I gathered my little things. I went home. I tidied my apartment. I set it all up. I took a bath. I put on the beautiful music. I sipped my little Pellegrino. I was feeling myself. And time and space changed. When you are in pleasure, time and space changes. It's incredible. And when the next part of the exercise after the bath was you had to look at yourself in the mirror and you had to only see things you loved. Now, what do we, as women, what do we do when we look in the mirror?
Yeah. The first thing so many women do is pick themselves apart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, I have a pimple. Oh, I think I look puffy. Whatever those things are. So I looked and they wanted you to see your whole body. And I could see like, oh, the curve of my shoulder. It's really lovely. I never even noticed that.
Yeah.
The line of my back. Wow. And then when I looked in my own eyes in the mirror, I was like, oh, the goddess is in my eyes. Because I'm in a place of pleasure. And I thought, holy shit. I've been missing the point my whole life. I've been thinking she's in some temple. I've been marching around everywhere looking for her when she's always been inside of me, but I couldn't access her because I had no access to my own pleasure.
Yeah.
It was such a revelation. And I made a promise to myself at that point. I was like, I got to tell every woman about this because every woman is divine.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at this, the Bible, right? Spiritual book for Christians and Jews, it says man was created in God's image. Doesn't say woman.
Yeah.
And then it says woman came from the rib of man. That is not a pregame. That is really fulfilling. Like, and I had no idea that I was divine. I had no idea. And so once I recognized that, I thought, whoa, this epidemic of self-doubt, self-deprecation, self-hate, self-criticism that women have culturally currently, if they knew they were holy, they knew they were divine, they wouldn't feel that way. So I got to figure out how to tell them. But I knew I was not ready at that moment to go to walking around the planet screaming that because I was a introverted celibate hermit and had taken my first day of basic sensuality. I was not yet equipped.
But the seed was planted.
But the seed was planted. And that's what happens, you know, as you live a life based on desire. Little seeds show up, and then you get to choose, am I going to plant this thing or leave it there?
Yeah.
And I see you did a lot of planting. You know, look at that big tree that grew from...
Well, it's a fake tree.
It's a big fake tree that grew from your imagination.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wouldn't have been here except for you.
Right. Well, such as any of this, right? And this room that we're sitting in, and in this home, and anything you've created, from the seed that's been planted. As you're speaking, I'm just like so lit up and smiling because I just so feel that, and I feel that within myself, and I feel that within the women that listen to this, and those of you listening to this podcast. It's like that's why you press play, right? It's like the little seed, it's the little thing that sparks you, that knows that there's something greater out there for you, and you're connected to something so much greater than yourself, and there's divinity within all of us. And like if you're listening to this, you feel that too. And I just feel that, and it's so beautiful. So if somebody's listening to this and they're like imagining that they want to feel that sense of aliveness, they want to feel that spark, what is something that they can do to start to awaken and find the goddess within themselves? Because I imagine for a lot of women that feels foreign to even do, you know, do things that are pleasurable for them, or look in the mirror and not. How do we transmute like the shame when we're looking in the mirror into power, into pleasure? What can she start to do?
I think the first thing is, if you're listening right now, if you had a tiny spark of aliveness, Rachel just asked me that question, guess what? You're cooked, because it means that pleasure is your pathway. And this is the first little seed. And I would say immediately they need to go to my website and sign up for my newsletter, which is www.mamagenas.com. mamagenas.com.
Amazing. We'll put it in the show notes.
Great, thank you. Because there is a little, every week I do a newsletter. There's a free gift for your listeners.
Great. I'm going to grab it too.
Which is a 5-day receiving challenge, which is how to expand your ability to receive the goodness in life that all the life wants to give you. So it's like following these little, or follow me on the socials, because I'm always dropping tips, because that is all I want to do. Like literally my task is to fan the flames of desire in women. That is my role. That's like my job. I just want women to awaken to their longings and awaken to desire, because the world is hungry for new ideas.
Yeah.
And the voice of woman is the greatest untapped natural resource on this planet. And the time to tap is now. And when a woman is connected to her divinity and connected to her pussy, then she is owning her life in a way that she cannot, will not, and just simply is way too stopped if she does not own her pussy. Because when you own your pussy, you own your creativity, you own your voice, you own your power, you own your confidence.
Yeah.
And we've had enough of women that have been trapped behind silence or depression or disenfranchisement or disconnection.
Yeah.
Those days are done. We need to awaken, and pleasure is the pathway.
Yes. Yeah. What does it mean to own your pussy? What does that look like?
It is to be so deeply, deeply, deeply connected to your 8,000 or 10,000 nerve endings. You know that you have, like, men and women are designed really differently. You know, a cock is kind of like a multi-tool. It does things. It pees, it ejaculates, it's busy. Whereas a woman's source of pleasure, her clitoris, is, I'm going to go with 10,000 nerve endings. That's the latest research. But it's dedicated to pleasure. What does that mean? It means that if you live a life where you're constantly doing things and achieving things and getting shit done and manning up and being busy, you're not living the design of what it means to be a woman. Because pleasure is part of your design. It means if 8,000 of your thoughts every day aren't about your pleasure, 8,000 of your decisions, 8,000 of your dreams, your desires, then you're not living the fullness. If you're not receiving the pleasure of life, you're not living the full design. And that's why so many women are burnt out.
Yeah.
Because they don't even put pleasure in the equation.
Yeah.
So part of it, is you actually have to create a relationship with your pussy, which we could do right now. Like you could just put your hand on your pussy right now.
Okay, do it with us.
Yeah, right
if you
now.
can.
And just be like, and feeling, you even can, you don't have to touch exactly, just keep your hand even maybe an inch away or less. And you just feel that aliveness. And then you just say, hello, gorgeous.
Hello, gorgeous.
And can you feel her respond to that?
Yeah.
There's like a little aliveness, a little life. And she loves to be noticed. She loves to be included because your pussy is really your intuition. And the more you can pay attention to her, and you can ask her questions like, what do you think you think we should go to that restaurant or that restaurant tonight? Or stay in? Okay, I'm feeling staying in too. Okay. Like it's considering her, allowing her to have a vote, and then learning how to pleasure her, learning a self-touch practice. Because we've been taught that our bodies are dirty or not acceptable. We don't even have a common language for what the name of that which is most essentially feminine about ourselves is called. Like, what did yours get called when you were growing up?
Hoo-ha.
Okay. We got the hoo-has, we got the coochie, we got the peach, the front bottom, nothing. We have Walter Winchell.
That's new. I haven't heard that one.
So many crazy names. And and yet, if you ask, you know, when I teach courses for men, I'll ask a room full of a couple hundred men. I'll be like, what did your private parts get called? And they'll be like, penis, what's your problem?
Mm.
But women, I get hundreds of crazy little kooky. It was Miss Kitty. It was Coochie. It was my little purse. Like crazy little nicknames. And what happens, just like your hand is your hand. Let's say you had these things on the ends of your arms. And whenever you said, Mommy, what are these? And she said, nothing.
Mm.
You would go around thinking, oh, I feel a little ashamed because I got these things on the end of my arms that we don't have a name for.
Mm.
Well, we have billions of women in this world that don't even have the name of the heartbeat of their feminine identity.
Yeah.
They cannot even say the name
Mm.
because they haven't been given a name because it is so outcast from our culture. The feminine is so disparaged. So when a woman can take ownership of her pussy to know, and by the way, if one day you have a child, perhaps, and that child, a boy or a girl, of course, if it's a little boy, you'll teach him he has a penis and a hand and a forehead and head, shoulders and knees and toes. But the word that I prefer women to use is vulva.
Mm.
To use the word vulva is truly important because that's the actual term for the exterior genitalia on a girl's body or a woman's body.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important that we give that to little girls so that they don't grow up thinking, wait a minute, I have a Miss Kitty, but my friend has a coochie, my other friend has a hoo-ha.
Mm-hmm.
So are we all, what's going on here? Why?
Yeah.
You know?
And not programming shame.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
almost like performing a linguistic clitoridectomy on a woman. In the Bible, it says, in the beginning, there was the word. Well, things don't begin until you give them a word. You have to have a word for something to begin to have an identity and a commonality. I mean, if we didn't have the word internet, how could we explain all of that magic?
Yeah.
So I chose the word pussy not because it's anatomically correct. It would have been vulva if it was anatomically correct. But I chose it because when a woman says the word pussy, she laughs.
Yeah.
She just gets cheerful. I don't know why. Like, if you just say pussy, you're just cheerful. It's fun. It's a little rebellious. It's a little sassy. It's a little outrageous. It's kind of, flipping a bird at the world. There's something wonderful about
Yeah,
it.
well, it's polarizing, right? And it's something that is supposed to be taboo and that we're not really supposed to say. And I think when we reclaim the parts of us that we have been taught to shame or to hide, there's something inherently liberating inside of that. And I love that. And everything that you just said, I'm just, like really, really taking it in. And also just thinking about like, how do we begin to change this? And even it sounds like with the next generations, like how do we begin, if you could paint a picture of like what our world actually would look like, what women really connected to their pleasure, to their power, how do we begin to actually shift this?
Get a copy of Pussy Reclamation. Have your dad read it, your uncles read it, your brothers read it, because the word reclamation I chose deliberately because, and I believe it has to start with women. We can't sit around waiting for our men to awaken and give us permission to be our fullness.
Yeah.
We have to be willing to reclaim the holy, the sacred, the sassy, the slutty in ourselves first. And then we teach the world how to do that.
Yeah.
So I think women really need to, choose to live their fullness. And I have sprinkled so many breadcrumbs on the trail. It's going to be easy. There's people like you out there, like me out there that are here to be cheerleaders on this journey. And, people often come to my classes and they're like, I'm so scared of pussy. I'm so scared because I was raised Catholic or I was raised Jewish or I was raised, Muslim and I'm like, the scariest thing is to not own your pussy. Why? Because if you don't own your pussy, I promise you someone else will.
Ooh, say more about that.
Why do you think we live in a time where so many women are experiencing rape, sexual abuse? If we don't own our bodies, we don't own the ability to say yes or the ability to say no, because we are so filled with shame, we don't feel we have a right.
We don't speak up.
We
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
Because because this word has been taken from us. So we don't feel like we own this gorgeous holy body that we were each born into.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we have to do that reclamation ourselves. Many women, there are so many women who even had more perilous situations of domestic abuse or violence or sexual abuse during their lifetimes, and still have done the reclamation, still own their storylines, own their bodies, own their pussies, and own their lives. It is not impossible. The impossible thing is to choose to not own your power when it's at your fingertips.
Yeah.
Literally at your fingertips.
Wow. And I imagine you said you've taught 80,000 women.
I have.
That's
More to come.
phenomenal. Are there any incredible transformation stories that come to mind? Do you have any at the top of your head?
Oh, just give me a category. Like, what do you want? Like,
A woman that's been through
dating,
something.
work, what do you,
Something that we were just talking about, like a woman that has been so disconnected from her power, or in abusive relationships, or in something that was seemingly impossible to heal and overcome from, and she just completely was liberated.
Okay. I'm thinking of this woman. She was my student, and she came to me as she was married and unhappily, kind of a sexless marriage, but they had a 5-year-old child. And she came because she had just given over her deposit to her divorce attorney. And she was feeling very proud of herself that she was finally going to get out of this very uncomfortable marriage that she'd been trapped in and get her and her kid away from this really awkward and very sad circumstance. Sexless, lifeless, dead marriage when her husband was away all the time. So she came to the first weekend of my class. And she just pretty much wept the whole class. And I didn't understand quite what was happening and why it was such a profound experience for her. And she just explained that she grew up in a very pious, very religious family, followed all the doctrines of her people and her culture, got married to the nice guy in her community, did everything right, and then hated her life. Yeah. And she said that she realized that she never, ever had ever even seen her pussy. The only person that ever saw it was her OBGYN when she would have the occasional infrequent sex with her husband in the early part of their marriage. The lights were always out. She never let him touch her because she thought it was so dirty. And so she realized, like, whoa, I've never loved myself. How could I expect to receive his love? So she is brave. And she goes home and she says to her guy, I had this potent weekend. I know we're getting a divorce, but I feel like I want to just do one thing with you before we split up. And this was her wild plan. She's like, we're going to get a babysitter, and then you and I are going to go out for a drink. And then we're going to come home, and I'm going to do a sexy dance for you. And then I'm going to let you see my pussy. And then we're going to get our divorce. And he was like, okay. So she is so nervous. She's telling me when they pulled up back to the house, that she was just like trembling because she had this big project ahead of her. And she goes out, they go up to the bedroom, and she like puts on a little outfit and she does like a sexy dance for him. And then, God knows what that was, but it was a huge step for her. And then she gets in the bed and she's, I think she was wearing the little outfit, but maybe she took her panties off, and she's up under the covers and she's waiting for him because she wants him to see her pussy. And he comes, the lights are all out, and he comes out of the closet wearing a headlamp. How cute is that? How cute.
Oh my God.
How adorable.
I love that.
And she like carefully peels the covers back, and he opens her legs, and he's tearing up because he's saying, I've wanted this for these past 5 years.
Oh.
All I wanted to do was see you and appreciate you and worship you and tell you how beautiful you are. Your pussy is so beautiful. It's so incredible. And it just, it's so beautiful. And she let him touch her gently. That was all that happened that night. But I will tell you this, they're still married to this day.
Oh.
Because if a woman is not connected to her pussy, she cannot surrender to her partner. She cannot open sensually.
Yeah.
She can't receive any love. She keeps it at arm's length. She puts the blocks to him. So that was so important because it not only changed her life, her husband's life, but the life of their son. He would have grown up without a dad.
Right.
And
Yeah,
she would have had
wow.
all the pressures of being a single mama without ever having experienced what it's like to be loved. So owning your pussy is not just good for you, but it's good for the whole family.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful.
I've had so many amazing stories. Like, literally, I was just thinking about this the other day. I had my very first book signing, this little 14-year-old red-haired girl.
Oh.
And this is back in 2004, I think. That's when Pussy came out. And she came to my first book signing, and I'm like, you're so young. What are you doing here? You should go home. And she's like, no, my mama brought me. I'm like, okay. And I was like, why? And she said, because I read your book. And what I didn't know at that time, I didn't ever think a 14-year-old kid was going to read Pussy, Mama Gena School of Womanly Arts.
Yeah.
That was my first one. But she told me she read it because kids her age read books, they call it reading up, where you probably did the same thing. Like when you're 12 or 13, you're reading books that were meant for 18, 19, 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
So she said, and I was like, why? Why did you read it? And she said, because it's the first time I ever heard the sound of a woman who loves herself. And it made me love myself. And I'd go to high school, and all the girls in high school hate themselves.
Yeah.
So that girl kept in touch with me, and she told me about her first sensual encounter with a boy, which was so tender because she said she could tell the boys who really cared about women or girls in high school because she had learned to really care about herself. And so she chose someone that would treat her preciously, like she was valuable.
Yeah.
So it's cool. Like the world can change. It is changing. You're changing it.
Yeah. Oh, I love hearing actual like testimonies and people, that someone listening to this can relate to in their own story and journey. And so much of this work from what I've just seen and just being in feminine work is how many women, when they get connected to their pleasure, when they get connected to their desire, completely transform every single area of their life. And that's been the case for me. I'll tell you a little bit about my journey.
Tell me.
Yeah, because I relate to this, and I did everything right as well. I was always taught like be a good girl, be.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Ohio, but kind of everywhere. Like Atlanta, Ohio, Florida, but I say Ohio because it's where I graduated high school from.
Okay.
But I was raised by two very like straight and narrow parents, love them, beautiful, you know, they had a beautiful relationship, and I was an only child, but I very much was raised like, you are a good girl, you get good grades, you do the right thing, you climb the ladder, you know, you do what's expected of you. And I was like a free spirit, and I had that aliveness in me, and I wanted to be a performer, and I was, you know, a lot, as my mom would have told me. And I went through a massive trauma at 16. My dad died in an accident.
What happened?
And it was a freak bike accident. And
No way.
So it was one day he was here, and the next he was
Oh my God.
gone. Yeah. So it was quite a reorientation.
Oh my God.
It was, yeah.
Even.
So that was the beginning of my journey.
Yes.
And being somebody who, you know, got straight A's, and I had, from the outside looking in, a very,
well bragged, baby.
Yeah. Thank you. But you know, I was like this overachiever, and my father had very much drilled into me, like, be number one, be an overachiever. And I was no tattoos, no piercings. I wasn't allowed to wear black. I wasn't allowed to do a lot of expressive things. So when my father died, I would have considered myself, I mean, now I'm going into my story a lot, but I would have considered myself atheist at the time. Like, I didn't have any, wasn't raised religious. I wasn't really raised anything. So when he died, having no belief or framework outside of myself just had me completely crumble and say, fuck the world, fuck, you know, all of your rules. And I went off, and I kind of off the deep end and did everything I wasn't supposed to do. So that's how I'm covered in lots of tattoos, you know.
And then what else did you do?
You know, so
drugs, sex, rock and roll.
Oh, all of it. Yeah.
Okay,
drugs,
good
alcohol, abusive relationships, like
Great
you
job.
name it. It was, I blew up my life in every way.
Great.
Still remained a straight A student in college, I will say. So I still, you know, got the things done I needed to, but yeah, very much had a tumultuous late teens, early 20s, found myself in a corporate job, working a 9 to 5, you know, under the fluorescent lights, just feeling like, oh my God, there has to be more out there for me. Like, this can't be all it. And I remember the day he died, I had that spark. I had this knowing, like, this won't be all for nothing. Like, you're going to make something of this story. And throughout the many years of the drug and alcohol and the being so disconnected from my body and my truth and kind of being that rebellious teenager, it was still that this won't be all for nothing. One day you're going to tell this story. And when I was 23, I got in an accident myself and was forced to take medical leave from my job.
What were you doing?
It was like it's so silly. It wasn't a big accident. It was just like I blew my knee out, but my leg,
Were you skiing or something?
No, it was on like a bouncy house obstacle course game, and I fell wrong. So it's like a freak, you know, like kind of accident that happened, but my kneecap it was one of those like, that they replay on the sports injury thing, and you're like, ooh. So I had to have a cast from my hip to my ankle, and I was in bed for 3 months, and I had to have a whole reconstructive surgery of my knee, and it was
How's your knee working now?
It's totally fine now, but I mean,
That's unbelievable.
I've got a scar.
That's not bad at all. And then it can work?
It can work. It's great. Yep. Totally fine.
Lucky.
Yeah, very lucky.
Great seeing this guy is taking care of you.
This is true. Yep. But that was the beginning of my awakening, because I had this knowing, use this time wisely while I'm in bed, and all of this won't be all for nothing. And I started researching, and it was when I found self-development and mindset work, and then I got into spirituality, and I had my first spiritual awakening, and that was, you know, eight years ago.
What was your first spiritual awakening?
Oh gosh. Well, first it was just, I call it, I went through the front door of self-development, which was goal setting, mindset work. Like, I remember at 23, it was a phenomenal thought to me that our thoughts change our reality. Like, that even in and of itself.
That's so cool.
Yeah, because so many people don't, I was never taught that. I was never taught that we can create and manifest based on what our thoughts and our subconscious beliefs. And so, and then it opened up this whole reality. It gave me power, right? And responsibility, because I, you know, from what had happened with my father, thought everything's happening to me. I didn't have the frame of this is happening for me. And so when I realized, oh, I can rewrite this story, I can rewrite this narrative and make myself, I can tell whatever story I want to tell. And then I started to, I think I came across you maybe a few years later into my journey.
How
Like
cool.
probably I've had this book for probably at least 5 years.
Great.
Yeah. So,
Oh my God. I love that I've been with you
you've
for
been
5 years.
with me. Yes.
We've been buddies.
Yes.
Didn't know it.
Before this ever started. And I remember I had that kind of first awakening, like, oh, my thoughts create my reality. And then I went kind of deeper into spirituality. I got really into quantum, just like understanding quantum physics, not from a high level, but just understanding like, oh, our reality is so much more than we can see, right? And this is before I got into feminine work, but it was very much, I would say it was the hyper masculine view of spirituality. And it was just this, understanding that I can change my reality, but I didn't realize I started to force my way there. And I was telling myself, like, I'm going to write myself into this narrative. I'm going to start telling my story. I started sharing it on the internet. I eventually started the podcast. And I said, I'm going to write myself into knowing all the people that I've ever wanted to know, which is so cool. And we're sitting here today, right? So it quite literally did come true in so many ways. But I found, it was about 3 years ago now, I had created a very abundant business, and about 5 years into my journey, I had launched this podcast, and the podcast had done really well. I'd met a lot of people, and I found myself, I had done the vision boards, and I had gotten the vision, all the stuff I wanted on the vision board. And, I did the 10K, then the 20K, then, I did all the number launches that I wanted, that I thought would make me happy.
Right.
And I'll never forget, I was like crying in my beautiful vision board house, the things that I wanted in my reality. And yet I couldn't make my relationships work. And I had all the stuff that I thought that I wanted, and it wasn't feeling fulfilling, and the bar was just moving. And that's when I said, okay, there has to be something else out there, because clearly manifesting what I thought my dream life was isn't giving me the aliveness and the fulfillment that I thought I wanted, right? It just ended up becoming this insatiable need for more and validation.
Yeah.
And that's what got me into somatic work and then feminine work. And that's when I actually picked up your book. I think I had it for a while before I actually went into it. Wow. And I got into feminine work, and not just pushing, and because I had been burnt out, right? And like not just pushing and controlling and forcing, but okay, how do I actually do this from pleasure and from aliveness? And then I started to learn about receiving, and you hear like create from being in flow. I didn't know what that meant. I'd had pockets of, obviously flowing or speaking and having what I guess I would call now the goddess flow through me, but I wouldn't have had that language before. But now I started to go on this path, and it just like felt like such an exhale. And it wasn't until, then I started to go into like polarity work, and then learning how to respect the masculine. And I had realized I had been in my masculine for so long. Yeah. And once I really started to learn about that stuff, that's when my partner came in, and now I found my life partner. And it's so, from this work, from the feminine work, it's completely reoriented me.
You mentioned quantum physics and the ability to create your reality. When we pour the elixir of pussy, the elixir of turn on, the elixir of erotic aliveness into that formula, it is an intensification and an expansion of your ability to draw in your desires and manifest your desires. I mean, this is what the, ancient goddess cultures teaches us, or the courtesans teach us, because we can actually, through pleasure, you can free your desire. It's almost like, if you think of desire as a musical note, right? Everybody knows Beethoven's Fifth. Bum, bum, bum. And it calls for bum. But when you just do bum, 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 you can hear that next note hanging in the air almost like you want it to come,
Yeah.
but it's not there yet. That's how a woman's desire works, or a woman's call. It's almost like if you are turned on and you are imagining and experiencing something you long for, whether it's partnership, whether it's a baby, whether it's a book you long to write, a movement you want to start, a job you want, uh, anything, world peace, you can activate that longing when you pour turn on into it, and you stay erotically alive. And then that turn on is what gives that potency and draws that final note to you, which is something that I think one of the reasons why I went on my tear to awaken women, because many women, for example, women who come to my classes all the time with, there's like about a top 5 or 10 complaints. And one of the top ones is, I can't find a partner.
Yeah.
Or that's a big one. But what women don't understand is, like, when you're looking for a partner, thinking, I can't find a partner. I never meet great guys. There's only terrible men out there. All of my friends have partners. I don't have a partner. I don't know, where are all these good guys? That is your call. So you don't want to waste your call on complaining. You want to be able to, through cultivating your pleasure, cultivating your turn on, paying attention to your 8,000 nerve endings, putting the key in your ignition, turning on, keeping your body turned on, so that when you're thinking of, to be in the arms of a beautiful, grounded, caring man who just longs to take care of, I can feel that. Oh my goodness, I can feel that. It's so yummy. Like, from that, you're going to get a whole list of partners. Like, that is irresistible. That's irresistible to the universe to bring that toward you. And so the trick for me is to really educate women in how to open their receivership, how to open their ability to rest in their longings, rather than be impatient or think it should have happened already. Like, staying in that turned on, alive state. That's what draws in the what's next.
Yeah, the magnetism that's created from that. I love
Yeah,
that.
and
Yeah.
I have that receiving challenge on my website. So
Great.
people should just get on that and get that right away.
Okay, great.
Because
We'll go to the show notes and download that.
because we have to have women getting what they want. Women were built. There's no desire that a woman has that's frivolous. It's all important.
Yeah.
So
I love that. And we'll have everybody listening to this go to the show notes and download the 5 days. But if you can give us
good.
yeah, we'll put it there. So definitely go grab that. And if before we wrap today, I would love to hear, like, what's one practice that a woman can start to cultivate in her daily life that can help her to open to receive.
I just had a conversation with one of my students about this, and she was at a point of frustration. She'd been online dating and all kinds of things, and she's hitting walls. But I have to tell you, the reason she was hitting those walls is because she was coming at it defensive, certain it would never work for her. And so I taught her her little homework assignment was for the first week. She was looking in particular because she wanted a man, but this also works if you want a non-binary person, a woman, whatever your longing is, doesn't matter. And she had to switch from complaining to gratitude. So I said, anytime a man opens a door for you, you have to be so grateful and choose to look at that as a sign from the universe that beautiful men are coming to take care of you because a man opened a door for you. Do not miss that moment.
Yeah.
If you're on an airplane and a guy takes your little rolly bag and puts it up above for you, how great and beautiful that you are being celebrated and noticed by the men in the world. And to just, so that she started to begin to see how what she wanted was already on her way to her, little small things like that she had missed.
Yeah.
And that began to shift her energy, which shifted her point of attraction. And it also gave her a daily self-pleasure practice. Because when you're able to keep your body in pleasure, it's easier to be grateful. We get kind of
Mm-hmm.
cranky if we do not have touch,
Yeah.
and we can touch ourselves, and it shifts our chemistry, turns on all those neurotransmitters, including
Mm.
beta endorphin, prolactin, serotonin, all the good stuff.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. I love that. So shifting from complaining about not having what you want to the gratitude of how it's showing up in your life
Yeah,
already.
it's a big one.
Amazing.
Hmm.
Beautiful. Well, definitely try that if you haven't already. Just we talk about gratitude here, but I love like the looking at where it's already in your life. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. So thank you so much, Mama Gena, for coming on
It's
the
been a
show
pleasure,
today. Yeah,
Rachel.
it's been so beautiful.
Thank
And where
you.
can everybody find you? No, you've
Go
mentioned it,
go
but
to my socials.
okay,
Mama Gena on Instagram, Facebook, mamagenas.com with an S. I'm there.
great.
I can't wait to connect with
Amazing. Awesome. And if you listened to this episode and you loved it, please DM us, let us know, share it with a
yay.
friend, like,
Hmm.
subscribe, all the things. And Mama Gena, thank you again for coming on and sharing
Thank you.
your
You're
wisdom.
amazing.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you for listening to the It's Fucking Spiritual podcast. I am so glad that you're here. And if this episode resonated with you, I invite you to share this with a friend that you feel needs to hear it. And if you are really feeling the love and support for this show, this podcast thrives off of your listens and your reviews. So I would love if you could leave us an honest review. We would love to hear your feedback, your thoughts, your questions, and it helps us get this podcast in the hands of more people and would mean so much to me to receive your support. So thank you.